Now is the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Chris Philp, thank you for joining us on Camilla Tominey on GB News. Your reaction, please, to the fact this man has been detained.
Good morning. Well, look, it's good that he has been finally caught, but I remain shocked that this inept Labour government let him out in the first place. They should never have allowed his release, and I think David Lammy and Shabana Mahmood have questions to answer because they have presided over this system. It should obviously be now properly investigated. What should happen now to this man is that he should be immediately deported. He is quite clearly a risk to women and girls. Just 8 days after illegally crossing the Channel, he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Essex, and we don't want people in this country who are going to attack women and girls in that way, so he should be immediately deported. It does raise a wider question. He crossed the Channel by small boat, committed this sexual assault within 8 days. In my view, everybody who illegally enters the country should be deported within a week. To do that, we need to leave the ECHR. That is now the Conservative policy. And if illegal immigrants who cross the Channel are removed within a week, either back to their country of origin or a safe third country, that will mean people like this man do not pose a risk to women and girls here. It will also mean the crossings are deterred, and pretty quickly they will stop entirely.
Wider issue of small boats crossing, Chris Philp. On this issue, should there be a statement in the House of Commons tomorrow from David Lammy to say exactly what happened, exactly what went wrong, and frankly, our heads rolling in the prison service, because this has been a complete disgrace and an embarrassment to this country?
Well, it certainly has been a complete disgrace, and yes, David Lammy should absolutely, and Shabana Mahmood should absolutely be giving an account for themselves in Parliament. They're responsible for running this system. Clearly, somehow there was a huge mistake, terrible mistake, between the prison service and immigration enforcement, who should have been picking this man up and taking him into immigration detention for deportation. So between the two of those departments, they messed up spectacularly. Ministers need to apologise, which I don't think they've done so far. They need to come to Parliament to account for their failures, and there needs to be an investigation to determine exactly what went wrong.
Figures show that 262 prisoners in England and Wales were mistakenly released, Chris Philp, in the year to March 2025. Some of that period, of course, you were in power as a Tory government. Labour blames, of course, the early release scheme they started last September by Shabana Mahmood as the Justice Secretary, blamed that on your government for failing to build enough prison spaces, prison cells. Is this, you are to blame for some of this that's caused the chaos in the prison system? You can't blame it all on Labour, can you?
Well, look, they've been in charge for a year and a half now, so they need to take responsibility for what they are presiding over. I mean, we did have record ever police numbers at the point we left office. There were thousands of extra prison places under construction. There is no question we do need more prison places to make sure people who commit crimes get put in prison so the public can be protected. But Labour have been in charge now for quite a while, and it's up to them to take responsibility for what's now happening.
In the papers that even Labour are starting to regret dropping your Rwanda plan last year. Is it time this government brought that in, or some form of outsourcing of processing to countries in the Western Balkans, for example? All sorts of ideas are happening, but clearly it's not working. Even that individual who the hokey-cokey migrant he's called, he was sent out, one in, one out, one in again into this country. That isn't working either.
Yes, they should definitely bring back Rwanda. That is a scheme that would have meant everyone illegally crossing the Channel would have been rapidly removed to Rwanda. That would have had a deterrent effect, because why would people bother crossing from France to the UK if they would wind up in Rwanda? Labour made a huge mistake by cancelling that before it even started. They had this, we're going to smash the gangs gimmick. Well, that didn't work. Now they're saying they're going to send a tiny handful of people back to France. I think they've so far sent 42 people to France. That's all. Over a time when 16,000 have arrived. Now, clearly, if you've got like a 0.1% chance of getting sent back to France and a 99.9% chance of staying in the UK, that's going to be no deterrent whatsoever. Look, the Conservatives have a clear plan. We're going to come out of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, and that will enable us to deport every illegal arrival within a week of arriving, either back to their home country or back to a safe third country like Rwanda if we can't remove them back to their home country. And that will pretty quickly stop people crossing, because why would you cross if you're going to get immediately removed? The USA has done something very similar this year, which has worked. And I think about 12 or 13 years ago, Australia did something similar as well. We know it works, but Labour is too weak to do it, to be honest.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Thank you, Chris Philp. Can I reflect briefly on the Caerphilly by-election? Do you know who your Welsh leader is in Wales?
Well, we have obviously fought that by-election hard. Disappointing result for the main parties. Plaid Cymru obviously won that, and Reform did pretty well. We had a disappointing night because, look, I think we're still in a process of recovery and of renewal, and we're going to keep working hard at that up and down the country. I think our party conference a couple of weeks ago was a bit of a turning point because we did lay out, I think it was 37 new policies, including the policy to come out of the ECHR and, as I mentioned a second ago, deport every illegal arrival within a week of their feet touching the ground.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
Stamp duty to save £47 billion.
You just can't say that it's a turning point when your vote collapsed to 2% in a by-election on Friday. It's not a turning point. It's a complete disaster. You're almost irrelevant to the wider public, certainly in that seat in Wales. Can I ask you again, who is your leader in Wales?
I mean, look. In that seat. The Conservatives have never won that seat. When it was last contested, we got, to be honest, a pretty low share of the vote. That's not an area we've ever been competitive. But there are plenty of other parts of the country where we are competitive. And I do think, just to come back to what I said a second ago, look, I mean, we had a whole load of new policies. Let me just finish. We had a whole load of new policies at our party conference a couple of weeks ago. I know that hasn't yet translated into the opinion polls, but I think it is a turning point because we now have a very positive agenda with a comprehensive plan. We're the only party, including Reform, we're the only party to have a comprehensive plan to fix illegal migration. We had like a 20-page document on fixing illegal migration, a couple of points I've mentioned already, a plan to save £47 billion of public spending, half of which roughly from welfare, which we can then reinvest in abolishing stamp duty completely for primary residences, hiring 10,000 extra police officers to have surge policing in crime hotspots. We're going to double the budget for immigration enforcement so we can remove 150,000 people a year with no right to be here. That is a positive programme that I think we can now take to the country.
And you had 14 years and didn't do it. I'm going to ask you again, who is the leader of the Welsh Tories in Wales?
But we've now got
I've asked you 3 times.
A new leader. We're under new leadership. Kemi Badenoch. We're under new leadership.
Yeah, you know her name. Right. So who's the leader in Wales?
Previously, Cambie Badenoch was never Prime Minister.
You don't know,
I
you
was
can
never
say.
Home Secretary. We now have a new programme to take to the country, and I'm optimistic and positive about the future.
If you don't know, you can say, who is the leader of the Welsh Tories?
Look, I've been explaining our positive programme for the future, which we set out at our party conference. 37 new policies we have.
I know,
37
I'm counting.
new policies we set out.
I'll just ask you a fifth time, who's the leader of the Welsh Conservatives?
Look, I've explained that we've got a positive new programme.
If you don't know, you can say it's totally fine.
In the months and years ahead.
The sixth one.
We've got a relatively new leader, and I'm afraid the name escapes me.
I know, he's called Darren Millar, and that does matter because the party is disappearing rapidly into the sand of a Welsh beach. When will you start governing for the whole country? You're going back into your heartlands of England. Wales has now lost you, it seems, and next May's elections will be a disaster.
No, I don't think that's true at all. We are governing for the whole country. I mean, the plans, I've mentioned some of the plans we set out at our party conference a couple of months ago, and those are plans for the whole country, like saving money from welfare, cutting stamp duty, ending illegal immigration, recruiting more police officers. By the way, that 10,000 extra police officer pledge applies in Wales as well as in England. So those are all policies that are for the entire country. They'll benefit all of our United Kingdom, things like the reduction in welfare spending, for example, controlling illegal immigration. Those are policies for the whole United Kingdom. And we are going to be fighting everywhere. Look, it's tougher in some places than others, obviously, but we are going to be fighting everywhere.
I'll just find on a really serious issue. Jess Phillips is still there as safeguarding minister. Some critics say you're making political capital out of the suffering of these poor victims of the grooming gangs. 5 or so don't want her to be there. Apparently 5 do want her to be there in charge of that. I mean, do you still think she should go? Is that the answer? Or surely just frankly all parties should get behind these victims and deliver justice for them?
Well, we are supporting those 5 survivors who have lost confidence in Jess Phillips. They say they will only return to the survivors consultation panel if Jess Phillips resigns as the minister responsible. She has lost their confidence, and we are supporting those survivors in what they've said. Labour never wanted this inquiry into the rape gang scandal in the first place. When we first raised it, when Kemi and I first raised it back in January, Keir Starmer smeared us as jumping on a far-right bandwagon. That was a disgraceful thing of Keir Starmer to say. It was only when faced with a vote in Parliament, I think it was in June of this year, they finally capitulated, and here they are several months later, still dragging their heels and not listening to what these survivors like Fiona Goddard are saying. The government need to start listening to the survivors and regain their confidence. And unfortunately, the survivors have said they don't have confidence in Jess Phillips.
Look, thank you very much for your time today, Chris Philp. We do appreciate it. Thank you, sir, for joining us today on Camilla Tominey on GB News.